Assalamu alaikum and welcome everyone. I'm Maha and this discussion is hosted by Chailogue, which is a community cafe that seeks to unite worlds of chai and dialogue so we can spark meaningful conversations while having a garam cup of chai. And I just want to tell you about this series. The series is talks of different talks dedicated to exploring the aesthetics of our culture in a way that gives us practical advice to as to how we can lead a purposeful life. And I'm really excited about this today, as we have the honor of hosting Dr. Azra Raza. Although she needs no introduction, but Dr. Azra Raza is a Chan Sun Cheong professor of medicine, and she heads a research facility at Columbia University. Besides being a top-notch scientist, she's a lover of Urdu poetry who has authored a famous book titled Ghalib, Epistemologies of Elegance, with her friend Sarah Suleri Goodyear. And the theme of today's discussion would be the expansive universe of desire in Ghalib's works. She will be exploring the vastness and depth of desire as Ghalib sees it and guides us as to how it can potentially influence us in today, in 21st century, so we can understand this intricate phenomenon. So with that, you are encouraged to send in questions during the session to the live feed, which will be responded by Dr. Raza herself at the end of the session. So let us just welcome Dr. Azra Raza. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Maha, Adabers. Thank you, Ali. And thanks to all of you, the patrons of this wonderful Chailogue cafe and program. I'm particularly delighted to be speaking to an Islamabad audience because growing up, it is where I spent some of the happiest years of my life. So for me, literally, it feels like a homecoming.
I'm
The
glad.
topic, the topic, as you heard, I have chosen is Ghalib, the vastness of desire. And here's the share that we are going to look at with some depth. इश्क से तबीयत ने जीस्त का मजा पाया, दर्द की दवा पाई, दर्द ला दवा पाया. Passion affords savor to life, a cure for pain and a pain incurable. The first line posits an age-old wisdom about the colorless nature of existence without love, without ishq, without a driving passion. Passion introduces the real relish into our lives. I was speaking to my friend and co-author Sarah Suleri Goodyear last week about this share, and she kind of got stuck on the word maza. She's right in doing so because think about it now. Ghalib has basically 16 words in which to convey a profound message to you. Every word he uses is so pivotal, so well thought out, and in Ghalib's mind, irreplaceable by another word. So why did he choose the word maza? Ishq se tabiyat ne zeest ka maza paya, as opposed to any other word. Well, maza can mean a taste or a flavor, but it also provides a lightness, an airy feeling of elation. It's associated with delight, enjoyment, pleasure, delicious sensation of joy. Kya maza aa gaya. So the maza here is very meaningful, of course. And now when you read this sher, you get a sort of a feeling good about things. As long as that inner feeling is present, the outer stuff will not be able to weigh you down. So there's a higher energy that gets generated from within, which no amount of external vicissitudes of fortune and life can diminish. Without passion, there's always a vacuum, an emptiness, a loneliness. One is always looking. Nothing seems complete. Even the most beautiful things appear to be waiting for someone, something, a beloved. Mustar Khairabadi described this eternal yearning and longing in some lovely rap. Here's the protagonist who goes in, who's not in love yet. And he enters a garden and he sees all these beautiful sights. And yet to him, it seems like everything is waiting for someone. कहीं सब्जे का बिछा फर्श के बैठे वो गुलेतर, कहीं पानी से भरे हौज के पीवे वो सितमगर, कहीं मेवे के लगे ढेर के चखे वो सनंबर, कहीं शाखों की ये ख्वाहिश के जरी साए में बैठे, कहीं फूलों का ये मंशा कि हमें नोच के फेंके, कहीं मेहंदी की ये जिद है कि मुझे पीस ही डाले, कहीं कुमरी की ये रट है कि कहे जाती है कूकू, कहीं बुलबुल है तलाशी में किधर है बुते गुलरू बुते गुलरू बुते गुलरू. Everything is waiting without love. Another aspect worth commenting upon here is how passion then creates desire, and desire for someone or something. And it's only the intensity of desire that provides the energy to power and drive human action, to force change. Reason cannot do that. It cannot drive change. Passion and desire will drive change. So the essential component of all successful stories is the hero's pursuit of a compelling desire. Success is actually measured by the strength of your desire and by the size of your dreams. And so how you handle the disappointments along the way also matter. Desire is the internal energy that alone can bring forth waves upon waves of creation. Here's a confession I have to make now. I'm jealous of one truly unique virtue that men possess and that women don't have, and we can never have. It is this: men know how to be slaves. Lots of married men are immediately identifying with this statement, but actually I mean something quite the opposite of such domestic issues. Think of it like this. If men fall in love with someone or something, and if their passion is real, they are unstoppable. That's it. It becomes an all-consuming obsession for them. There is nothing they will not do to achieve their object of desire. No obstacle is large enough. No war is too big, no burden too heavy, no hindrance too unsurmountable, no conflict unresolvable, no affliction or encumbrance too challenging. Nothing will deter them. They are ready to lay down their lives for it. They will not eat, they will not sleep, they will neglect themselves, they will neglect their families. In fact, they are so single-minded that it is the only reason we have things like the Brooklyn Bridge here in Manhattan connecting to Brooklyn, and we have things like the Taj Mahal. They will happily lay down their lives in their quest. In fact, it's the only way to be sincere to your passion. They will not think twice about risking their lives. Ghalib understood this very well. In fact, he admonishes the weak of the heart, those who are hesitant or unwilling to stake everything in pursuit of their passion, providing them with a stern warning. हाँ वो नहीं खुदा परस्त, जाओ वो बेवफा सही, जिसको हो दीन और दिल अजीज, अरे उसकी गली में जाए क्यों? Don't even bother to step into that lane. Granted, they are not a lover of God, and yes, they are unfaithful. Whoever holds creed and heart more beloved, don't even dare to enter that alley. And 600 years before Ghalib, another great poet pointed this out also. Khusro Darya Prem Ka. Khusro, this is the river of love. So, ulti waki dhar, everything is backwards here. Khusro Darya Prem Ka, so ulti waki dhar. Jo utra, so doob gaya. Jo dooba so par. Khusro, this is the river of love. Everything flows backwards here. Whoever steps into it drowns. But one who drowns willingly is the only one who has a chance to cross over. In other words, you can't be superficial with your desire. You have to dive deep. That is the only way you'll have a chance to get to the other side. So you have to be prepared, however, to sacrifice everything on the threshold of your beloved. A beloved who is notorious for being unfaithful, of course. Your quest opens you up now to great vulnerability because your happiness suddenly depends upon the whims and fancies of another or others. Ultimately, you cannot expect any reward, satisfaction, or calm of consummation. You just have to keep giving your all your life. Desire will continue to drive you to do that. Are you prepared for the crushing torments of separation awaiting you? So a man in love has tasted the maza of ishq. He is ready. He is heedless and single-minded, focused on that one thing. A true slave to the passion where no reason can interfere. That's it for men. How fortunate, I say. We women, we cannot act like this because nature has hardwired us to think about our children first. We cannot recklessly give in to our desires. Of course, fathers also care about children. But before anyone gets angry with me, just remember that study after study has shown consistently that money given to mothers is used more often for the benefit of children and their families than if money was given to the men. We women, whether we have children or not, doesn't matter. It is embedded in our genes to remain practical, to weigh the consequences of every action and look at it through the prism of effects it's going to have on our immediate family, on people who depend on us. Not even people who depend on us. We simply cannot afford to become totally focused like men on our own passion, consumed by our one desire. Be it art or be it music, architecture, medicine, or law, we always remain a little distracted by the needs of others around us. Even when we don't have anyone who depends on us, we will remain cognizant of the pragmatic, the realistic concerns. In other words, we are not good slaves, men are. Of course, this doesn't mean that women's passion or desires are any less intense than that of men. We simply act on them with more caution. And we always take into account its effect on others. In summary, the first line, Ishq se tabiyat ne zeest ka maza paya. It defines the real meaning of life, which is to have a passion, to be driven by it, a desire, a force majeure, an energy that is greater than ourselves. It's only through this emotion that we will get to taste the joys and sorrows in their true depth. So now you wonder, where is Ghalib to go with the second line here? He never disappoints. He delivers a zinger in the second line. इश्क से तबीयत ने जीस्त का मजा पाया, दर्द की दवा पाई, दर्द ला दवा पाया. A cure for pain and a pain incurable. How is this paradox to be understood? The insinuations, the suggestions are breathtaking. Dard ki dawa pai. What dard? What pain is being cured here by passion? The entry of ishq, this enthralling, devouring passion in life, is so overwhelming, it drowns out all other sorrows that now appear totally minor in comparison. So the great Hafiz Hoshiar Puri uses a minimalist approach in his perpetually appealing ghazal to deliver the final verdict. Of course, my generation grew up with this ghazal. But even for the younger people, I'm sure that you've grown up listening to this on the radio in the beautiful voices of whether it's Farida Khanum or Mehdi Hassan. मोहब्बत करने वाले कम न होंगे, तेरी महफिल में लेकिन हम न होंगे. Number of those who love you, die for you, won't be any fewer. But in gatherings of your confidants, I will not be present. And then he comes to this stunning sher. Zamane bhar ke gham, ya ek tera gham. Zamane bhar ke gham, agonies of the world, ya ek tera gham, or agonies of separation from you. Ye gham hoga to kitne gham na honge. This agony forces me to forget and frees me from all these other agonies. Ye dard ki dawa pai. This is how he means it. In other words, the first half of the Misra, dard ki dawa pai, is the same idea as ye gham hoga to kitne gham na honge. What about the second half? Dard ki dawa pai, darde la dawa paya. What does darde la dawa paya mean now? The pain of this ishq is incurable. Why? Well, this is what brings us back to the title of my talk, the vastness of desire. Think of the enormity of this force, the power propelling every action in your life because you have fallen in love. Whether it's with a person or a thing, it doesn't, or your profession, it doesn't matter. It is that desire. This gripping, compelling, engrossing energy, the very potency of it, it is so massive that it is constantly so overwhelming, so all-consuming. The moment of consummation simply cannot live up to the tremendous investments that you have made in order to arrive and reach this point. You know, in other words, dreams once actualized lose their potency. If you get your object of desire, well, now what? Going back to Hafiz Hoshiar Puri, in the same ghazal, he says, Agar tu ittifaqan mil bhi jaye. Think of this. Agar tu ittifaqan mil bhi jaye, even if we meet by coincidence, unintentionally, teri furqat ke sadme kam na honge. The moment does not compensate for the deep anguish of the separations that we have suffered. And let's just read the last two shares only because they are so beautiful. Dilon ki uljhane badhti rahengi, agar kuch mashware baham na honge. Misunderstandings will continue to amass if we don't consult and share. And the Makta Hafiz unse main jitna badguma hoon, हफीज उनसे मैं जितना बदगुमा हूं वो मुझसे इस कदर बरहम न होंगे. मोहब्बत करने वाले कम न होंगे. Hafiz, no matter how doubting I am of them, it will not match their annoyance with me. So desire literally works like a transportation system in your life. It takes you places. It's the only thing that can take you places. On the way, you will have to take up arms against a sea of troubles, face disenchantments, bear unpreventable, unimaginable torments, cruelty of circumstances, and ultimately come to accept your fate. No resolution is to be expected. Remember that. Darde la dawa paya. Because Ghalib reminds us in another sher so far ahead of his time by using a digital analogy that even if there is a moment of union, it is instantly followed by separation. What does he say? Think of this sher, how far ahead of his time he was. तुझसे किस्मत में मेरी सूरते कुफले अबजद. तुझसे किस्मत में मेरी, it is my fate. सूरते कुफले अबजद, like a digital lock. Think Ghalib is talking in 1840s about a digital lock. तुझसे किस्मत में मेरी सूरते कुफले अबजद, था लिखा बात के बनते ही जुदा हो जाना. The union defined precisely by finding the right combination is immediately followed by separation. How beautiful. तुझसे किस्मत में मेरी सूरते कुफले अबजद, था लिखा बात के बनते ही जुदा हो जाना. So the conclusion of my talk is now the moment of gratification cannot match the vastness of desire. And therefore, the end should not be the focus. The desire itself is and must remain the focus because it is never going to end. I finish by addressing the young people in the audience now. What Ghalib is saying is so vital for you. You must take it to heart. Remember that real meaning, the real color, real truth will only come into your life once passion enters you and you start to desire something or someone with a force that is greater than yourself. How will you even find this passion? Well, first of all, start by paying attention to whatever it is that you're doing. If you are in love with someone, be very careful. Stop being afraid. Do not let others' desires and expectations of you force you to do things. This above all, to thine own self be true, said Shakespeare. And that is really something you must take to heart. But if you are a student, start studying and diving deeper into whatever it is you are studying. If you are a computer scientist, an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, teacher, whatever profession you have, ask yourself, what is your ultimate goal? What should define success in your particular profession? I'm going to take my own example now. I became completely obsessed by the question of cancer at the ripe old age of 18. Now, if you look at my career with a backward glance, it might be defined as a relatively positive one. In the conventional sense of the word, I mean. I became a professor at 39 years of age. I received an endowed chair soon after. And in fact, I've had several endowed chairs at various universities. So many that my colleague Hamza Habib, who's also from Lahore, said to me one day, Azra, enough chairs already. Can you please get a sofa now? But jokes aside, the point I'm trying to make is, in all sincerity and without any shadow of humble bragging, is as follows. If becoming a professor at an Ivy League university was my goal, then yes, I'm successful. But in reality, I feel like an utter failure every single day of my life. Because despite doing everything I possibly could to study and treat cancer, I'm still using the same drugs to treat leukemia that I was using in 1977. How many thousands of patients have lost lives that I have personally taken care of? So where is my success? The fact that I've become a professor? Yes, a professorship is important because it has provided me with the opportunity to apply for grants, to have a laboratory, to conduct experiments with cutting edge research. But that's not an end by itself. It is the means to an end. Professorship is just a means. Think how profoundly unfair it is to patients who are losing their lives in a painful, tormented day, day after day. So every single day, let us not celebrate our minor accomplishments of this title or that little promotion. Our eyes must always be on the higher goal, and that is why the passion will be unending. In fact, when I was 24 years old, freshly arrived in the US, I was deeply moved by this line inscribed on the walls of Roswell Park Cancer Institute. If I had a choice between a walk on the moon and saving one life from cancer, I would never look at the moon again. So the quest remains unending. The path will remain full of distress, suffering, but it also is the source of innovation, creativity. This is the kind of obsession that could lead one of you in the future to epic stature accomplishments to cure cancer where I have failed. As for me, I pledge to continue as long as possible in this journey, and my consolation is Ghalib and Faiz Sahab saying, Junoo mein jitni bhi guzri, bakar guzri hai. So lovely. The time spent in frenzy in this junoon is time well spent. Without looking at the end. जुनू में जितनी भी गुजरी बकार गुजरी है अगरचे दिल पे खराबी हजार गुजरी है. The time spent in this frenzy is time well spent, despite the 1,000 catastrophes my heart had to bear. My last word of advice, again to the young people, is this. Once you know your passion and you're ready to give it your all, then women, please start behaving a little more like men. Don't be afraid to take risks. And men, start behaving a little more like women. Yes, we understand you're burning with this passion and this desire, but you must think of others around the effect it will have on others if you become this single-minded. And both of you, never look at the end of the road because you're always going to be at the beginning of a new one. Remember that it is how you conduct yourself on the journey that is going to matter the most. And the only Zen you're going to find on top of the mountain is the Zen that you bring with you. So keep reminding yourselves, इश्क से तबीयत ने जीस्त का मजा पाया, दर्द की दवा पाई, दर्द ला दवा पाया. Shukriya, thank you, adab, khuda hafiz, Chailogue Cafe, Zindabad, Pakistan, Zindabad. Thank you, Maha.
Thank you so much. Before we move on to the question answers, I would like to ask you something. First of all, thank you for the brilliant and the fascinating take on Ghalib and life in general. I always think about this, that there's a conjecture that comes to my mind when I come across Ghalib, and if it's I actually if Ghalib synthesizes between mystic and romantic desire, and how do you see it?
Mystic versus?
Romantic desire.
Ah, I think they are very similar. I don't see any difference with them. Desire is desire, and that's the whole point.
So it could be either, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because mystic desire doesn't mean you have to sit under the banyan tree and start just rolling your rosary and wear orange robes and, chant some mantra. No, mystic involvement also means service to humanity. And that should anyway be the goal of your life. So I don't see any difference in the two.
All right. Thank you. Should we move on to the questions from our audience? Okay, so there's a question. This is from Vishal Panu. He's from Lahore. And he's saying this: Ghalib is difficult to understand for us beginners. The words he uses are difficult. What are some books that you would recommend to beginners?
Yes. Such a lovely question, because this was exactly the problem, of course, that I faced when I was your age. I came to America at 24 years of age, and, having gone to schools like you guys are going to, where minimal Urdu is taught. The only thing is, I was luckier in that my father was from Lucknow, my mother from Aligarh. So at home, since we were young, we were made to not only memorize Ghalib and Iqbal and all kinds of ustads, but also to discuss them and to think about the meanings a little more deeply. But then when I came to America at 24, I realized how ignorant I really was about Urdu.
Mm.
And how would I become familiar with even just the terminology that's used, gul and bulbul, and what do all these things mean? The poet is not a bird, but why is he imagining himself to be a bird all the time? These kinds of things to understand. I decided, well, the most difficult poet is Ghalib. Why not begin by trying to understand Ghalib? So when you go to read him, exactly what you said, you can't understand. So as soon as I finished my residency, I was 28 years old by now, I started something called Urdu Mehfil, which is me and my friend Seema, who was also in Buffalo at the time. We would sit together once a week, and we would have my open like 10, 11 sharas of Ghalib, written by different people, Ghulam Rasool Meher or Yusuf Chishti Saab or Shamsur Rahman Farooqi, who just died, and I'm heartbroken over it because a great scholar of Ghalib is lost to the world forever. A great man is lost to Urdu forever. So we would have all these sharas open. We would read one sher. Like, think about it. I took half an hour today to explain one sher to you. So we would read one sher, and we would look at every shara and try to understand what different people are saying about it. Maulana Tabatabai ye keh rahe hain, Ghulam Rasool ye keh rahe hain, Farman Fatehpuri Sahab ye keh rahe hain, Shamsur Rahman Farooqi ne iska ye naya matlab nikala. But then thinking ki hum kya iska matlab sochein. Yes, you read everybody, but start thinking yourself. So do you know, guys, that I spent the next 20 years having Urdu mehfils once a week or once every other week in every city I lived in. Buffalo to Cincinnati to Chicago to Massachusetts to New York. And we would keep reading. So through this reading, Ghalib carefully, twice the entire divan in Urdu mehfils, I began to think, okay, now I understand a little bit. And then I convinced my friend Sarah Suleri Goodyear, who's simply the single most intelligent, wonderful, funny person I have met in my life, the single most, I would say, a true genius. I know the word genius is used so lightly these days. Everyone's 2-year-old is a genius these days. But Sarah is one of the old fashioned geniuses. You know, the A team, we are all B team down here. She belongs to the A team. So I spent a year trying to convince her because she comes with a Western sensibility as well as she grew up in Lahore. So she has both. Her mother was Welsh and she's professor of English at Yale, but she has straddled both worlds. And I knew that I have tried to understand Ghalib from the perspective of all the Urdu scholars, but what about having a Western thinker who also understands the Eastern courtesy culture, work with me to interpret Ghalib? And of course, it was too ambitious to think we could do the whole divan. It took us a year to do just 21 ghazals. So the point I'm trying to make is it's not easy. You're not going to read a share of Ghalib and one day suddenly understand it, because you have to keep thinking about the message behind those words. Understanding words is not enough for it. And after 20 years of reading the Diwan-e-Ghalib twice in Mehfils through 11 Sharaz, writing a book on Ghalib, every time I read a sher, I can come up with either something new or get confused by someone or some word he has used. Like Sarah and I got stuck on the word maza last week, and we kept talking about why did he say maza? Why not use another word? The same way you can think of Hafiz Hoshiar Puri. Why did he say dilon ki uljhanein badhti rahengi? He could have said dilon ki ranjishein badhti rahengi. But he uses uljhane. Now you think about why. What does uljhan mean? Agar kuch mashware baham na honge. I mean, this is the beauty of poetry, that it's like saying E equals MC square. How simple is that? E equals MC square. But then understanding what it means, you are going to do a PhD in physics and still not understand, because there are only 12 people in the world who understand relativity so far. So that's the kind of journey you must continue. You have a desire to understand Ghalib, it's an unending journey. Continue on it all your life, and you will understand more about life itself.
Thank you. That's a very detailed answer. I hope, Vishal, that that really helped. Okay, so the next question is from Mashal. She's from Islamabad, and she's saying, you mentioned in one of your talks that there's a huge difference between love as proclaimed in Western cultures versus how it is proclaimed in our culture. You said simply by saying I love you is not enough in our sensitivities. So further elaboration on this would help.
I think I was quoting Arfa Sayyida Zehra, who said, I love you too, culture unka hai. So, love is love, no matter what culture it is, but the expression of it is a bit different, is maybe what I meant. I don't remember the context in which I said it, but I know I have admired the way Arfa Sayyida Zehra said it.
Okay.
And I think basically love is such an intense emotion. It's an experience. So language is, of course, limited by just having that many words, but experience, what you feel, is limitless, is infinite. And so all the writers and authors and painters and musicians and composers, everyone is trying to express the depth of love, and they are unable uh, to even satisfy themselves about it. Listen to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, for example, about you know, all men, how we love, humanity loves each other. And then you can come to an individual love and have so many different expressions for it, yet nothing will ever suffice. So I think cultural differences may be there, but that's a very light and superficial comment that I must have made somewhere. It doesn't have anything to do with the deep love and desire that we're
All right.
talking about.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to ask, an extension of this talk, is that do you think in our society, desire and expression of it in daily dealing is suppressed? And if so, then how does Ghalib give us a framework to deal with it?
Maha, I don't live in that culture. I haven't since I was 24. It's hard for me to know what's going on there. But I must say that there are cultural differences in how we express our feelings, and over expression of them, like Arfa Sayyida Zahra said, I love you too, is certainly not any better than not saying it. It's not. I mean, I think there are ways of expressing your love and your desire that Ghalib is trying to teach us how to do it. You have to just recognize that you being sincere to your feelings is the most important thing. The cultural issues are too far beyond me to address, I'm afraid.
And passion, like you said earlier. So I think, yeah, that would answer it. We have another question. This is from Hashir Ali Bernie from South Africa, and he's saying he wants you to recite something for us.
Oh, okay. What?
Anything by Ghalib.
Anything by Ghalib? वो फिराक और वो विसाल कहाँ, वो शबो रोजो माहो साल कहाँ, थी बस एक शख्स के तसव्वुर से, अब वो राना ये ख्याल कहाँ. इतना आसान नहीं लहू रोना, दिल में ताकत जिगर में हाल कहाँ. दिल तो दिल वो दिमाग भी न रहा, शोर सौदाए खत तो खाल कहाँ. How beautiful is that? हमसे छूटा कुमार खाने इश्क, माँ जो जाए गिरा में माल कहाँ. मुजमहिल हो गए कबा गालिब, अब अनासिर में एतदाल कहाँ.
Thank you so much, Azra ji. Thank you so much for taking out the time for us, and I really hope that we can meet once you're here, once COVID is over, and we can finally meet in Islamabad. And I would like to thank everyone who joined us today. We usually have such events at our cafe in Islamabad, Chailogue Cafe in E11. And we really hope that Azra Raza ji would come and visit us one day. So we could have lovely discussions about Ghalib and other poets over a cup of chai. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me, Maha. Khuda Hafiz.